you guys have the two kids in Avery. When my mom always used to say your husband comes first in the relationship. So there I get varying opinions. Most of the women I talk to say my child's only for my husband and I ain't ashamed of, How do you feel about that? Like who comes first and how do you make one not feel less important than the other?
That's a difficult question because it is true that the husband comes first, right? So for me, I feel like showing our older children, and Avery a healthy, happy marriage, right? Is first of all speaking to my husband in his love language, but secondly, showing the children how important they are, right? Because with them seeing that, hopefully they'll grow to have, and I'm not just talking about, romantic relationships, but just
Healthy ones.
yeah, healthy relationships, and be healthy, happy, well-rounded individuals. Um, the in-home date nights, right? Putting Avery down for the night, watching shows, movies, whatever that he likes, but he wants me to watch them with him. We record a lot of things so that we can watch them later, so we can spend that time together. Um, these are just small ways, that I show him that he's important, that he comes first. Because people take that so literally, I think, right? But it's really more about your actions, really, than taking it so literal.
Yeah.
I think it's really kind of hard to explain, but there are ways that you can completely ignore your husband and be so laser focused on your children. He knows that he is not as important to you. He knows that he does not come first, right? Women do that, and I get it. I am absolutely crazy about my baby boy, right? He is absolutely one of the most important things in my life. But Jamar and I did that together. He was made in love. He's surrounded by love. He was born in love. And I'm not ignoring Avery when I'm focused on Jamar, and vice versa. It just works. I don't.
One of my other interviews, the wife described it as it's a healthy balance.
Yeah.
You can't. The one spouse can't feel slighted when you're doing something for the other kid because you still have to do stuff for the kid regardless of the spouse being there.
Yeah.
And so if that means that I have to attend this kid's play or sporting event or something like that, and that means that we can't go on a date tonight. That doesn't mean that you're not as important. It just means that I have to figure out how to prioritize that date night somewhere else in some other way.
Right.
And it's like you said, speaking your spouse's love language. If you speak your spouse's love language, then they'll feel that. But I think you said showing your kids what a healthy, loving marriage looks like, is probably one of the biggest gifts that you can give them, for them to know that your parents are happy.
Yeah.
And giving them an example to follow when they move on. I think it just works. It's just a delicate balance. I think your kids have to see that mommy and daddy love each other and they take time for each other, just like we love you and we take time for you. And because we do one thing doesn't mean that doing that makes you any less important.
Right.
Yeah. You're right. It has to just work out. But I think you have to be conscious about it. And I think if you are putting the marriage first, if you're putting the spouse first, if you are, just being cognizant of your actions, it should work.
Yeah. I think you can make your spouse feel like he's not important. For example, with me having a young baby, I'm always sleeping in the baby's room, right? I don't spend any quality time with my husband. Everything is about the baby. I can't do that. Avery needs me. You know what I'm saying? Like, just never showing him any type of affection. Like, all of my attention, my main focus is on, you know, my baby. My baby gets a lot of attention. He gets a lot of affection. He gets what he needs, but so does my husband. And it just works well. So far, it has worked extremely well.
Now, we have the two older kids. Having been being a stepmom and having to bring in, you know, a child into a relationship, how did you manage blending the family? How do you deal with the stresses that come with that? How are you dealing with it, I should say?
Am I? It's a work in progress, Allison, really. Every day it requires a concentrated effort to make this blended family work. You have children who are splitting their time between two households that are run completely differently. I put myself in their position, right? This is one of the things I had to do to try, because it was not, I'm not even gonna lie to you. We have our moments, and just like with anything else, with a healthy marriage, the good far outweighs the bad, right? But it was not working at first, right? Because I have my certain ideas, and I have ways that I want my household to run. I want things to go. There are things that you need to do. There are things that you are not allowed to do here that you may be allowed to do elsewhere. And those things are just non-negotiable still. But they're not unreasonable. But when you're talking to a 6, 8, 10-year-old, they seem unreasonable, right? So, and this was a little bit of a point of contention with my relationship in the beginning. I need you to support me in this, helping the children understand. I'm not trying to be the wicked witch of the West. The way that Danny does it is not mean. It's not wrong. It's just different. So we still, you know, are working on those things. Like I said, there was some relaxing that I needed to do. Really, just honestly, I'm an adult. I can admit that, right? And I think being sympathetic to children to a certain degree and apologizing when you're wrong, when you're on 10 and you really should be on 2. Those things are important. Those things have helped to smooth out the rough edges of the blended family relationship. But it's still working. This weekend might have been great. Next weekend, somebody might be in a mood. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, but I don't want to live in a house where, I don't want to be in a family where I dread seeing my bonus children come. I'm holding my breath until they leave. I'm walking on eggshells when they're around. Me and my stepdaughter are just passing and ignoring each other like 2 ships in the night. That's not the type of family I was raised in. That's not the type of family that I'm trying to bring up. And it causes stress to my husband if his children are not getting along with his wife. Right? So what I do to try to make it work is I try to relax without falling all the way off. I try to be sympathetic because it's hard for them going back and forth. You going somewhere where you're allowed to do absolutely anything you want, and you go someplace else and you have all these rules. That can't be easy for a child. So I don't fault them as much, but then at the same time, y'all are getting to a certain age where you know better, and you spend enough time here that you're shown better. I shouldn't still have to be reminding you 7 years later to do certain things. We've been doing this dance for a long time. So like I said, some things are non-negotiable. Some things I'm just like, okay, Danny, don't sweat the small stuff. That's small stuff. You know? every day, it's just a learning experience, and every day you just gotta go with the flow.
And I'll tell you, it'll be like that because Christian is now, he'll be 16 in March. So it'll be 12 years, that we've been playing this game. And while some things have gotten easier, some things haven't.
He's a teenager now.
Yeah,
so that's
now
some
there's
new
a whole
stuff.
other dynamic,
Yeah.
right? And it's exactly like you said. There were some things where you just like, you know what, I need to step back a little bit. And this is recent. One thing that I recognize is, you know what, I can't continue to push on this if I'm the only one pushing on this. And I have to recognize for my sanity that is I can't.
Yeah.
And two, if I'm the one pushing and the other two parents aren't, it's like then I become the bad guy. I don't want to have a contentious relationship with my stepson. And if I'm always the one that's pushing, and nobody else is, then I create this environment for him. And so I had to recognize that, you know what, this is one that it's gonna go into lost column for Allison.
Yeah.
And I have to accept that at the end of the day. Being a step parent, you are the third leg of the stool, yes, but you also sometimes are a third wheel as well. You have to be able to recognize those two.
Right. When they need your support and when they need you to just back on.
Exactly. And that has been something almost 12 years in that I've had to recognize. And so, it is not an easy thing. Some people who talk about having these amazing relationships with the other parents, it's wonderful, and I'm very happy for them. And if that were ever going to be the case, we would greatly, receive that and be thankful for it. But it's not.
Yeah.
And so, because of the situation that we're in, we have to make do and make sure that Christian doesn't feel that he's, being any less loved or cared for or what have you. And that has to become the focus. So I can totally relate with that. Sometimes you got to step back. This is one of them. Okay, got it. Moving on.
Right.
Because you don't, ultimately, if you don't, it'll impact your marriage relationship as well.
Right.